Good day, good day, good day, good day. I'm so excited. I'm stepping in for my man Reggie. Peace and love always, Reggie. Get well soon for Urban Sentinel. I have a special guest today. She's a CPA, an author, and a CEO of her own nonprofit for her own nonprofit. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Lori Ann Brinson. Lori, please come in.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you today, Lori?
I am doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Okay, what I want to do first, I try to do folks like this first because the biggest thing when you do podcasts, the last information everybody gives is the information they miss. Give out your websites.
Okay. My website for my business, my accounting business, consulting, advising business is Your Next CPA, all one word, Your Next CPA LLC.com. And that is for accounting, advising, consulting, tax preparation, nonprofit reviews, setting up small businesses, setting up properly, whether you're LLC, S Corp. My other website for my nonprofit, Victory Over Violence of Florida, Inc. That website is victoryoverviolencefl.com. All one word.
VictoryOverViolence.com.
victoryoverviolencefl.com.
FL.com. Okay. I try to do that first because the conversation gets so good, and
Yeah.
people like, how do I get in contact with them? We're going to say it a couple more times as we go through the interview and
Mhm.
everything. Okay, Lori, let's jump
Yes.
into everything. You're a CPA. Tell me what you do as a CPA.
Okay. So I actually do have my own small business, but my 9 to 5, I work for a company called James Moore and Company. James
Mm-hmm.
Moore and Company allows me to do consulting, advising for small municipalities, towns, cities that need a CFO, a finance director, an accounting office. I provide those services for several small cities and towns in the state of Florida through James Moore and Company. But my own business that I've been running for about 15 years, Your Next CPA LLC, um, that I started that just out of my desire to be an accountant. I've always known I wanted to be an accountant since I was a little girl, working for my father. My father had a business for about 30 years, one of the longest running businesses in Central Florida, owned by a Black man. And I used to do his bank reconciliations. I used to write
Okay.
up his sales invoices and all those things. So when I got to college, I knew I wanted to major in accounting. I actually became a CPA a little less than 3 years ago. Although I've been working as an accountant for about 15, 20 years. So my main job was with government. I worked in government for 25 years. And that's my day to day.
Were
And
you
then
state or federal government? What side were you?
I worked for state, I worked for the county, I worked for cities.
Okay, cool. Okay, got you.
Yeah. Yeah. My first government job was actually with the state of Florida. That was my
Okay.
first government job.
Okay, so you
And I ended my government career with Hillsborough County working in affordable housing.
okay.
Um, and so from there, I was picked up by James Moore to do consulting and advising for small cities and towns. And it was just a good fit for where I was in my career.
And all the networking you had done all that time.
All that time, yes, yes. Met a lot of people over the years. So when they brought me on, a lot of the organizations that I had been on the board or served and volunteered, they were excited for me. So it was a good fit at that time after getting my license to move out of the office and into consulting and advising.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay, we're gonna go on down the line. Okay, you're an author. Okay. Tell us about this great book, Free.
Free. So free was birthed out of my pain. Free was birthed out of my pain. I suffered trauma when I was in college. I attended Florida State University, love Florida State University, but at Florida State University, I had the best of times and the worst of times. Um, I encountered date rape is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Someone I was dating, it was date rape. And once I graduated, I got married. I married a gentleman that I met in church. He was a minister in church. He was a preacher, and we got married. And soon after we got married, we moved over to Panama City, and the drama began.
Mm.
The drama began. He started showing his true colors. He became verbally abusive, eventually physically abusive. Um, and it was nothing I was familiar with because I didn't grow up that way. I grew up with a mom, a dad. I grew up in church. My parents were pastors. That's all I knew was church growing up, other than school and participating in activities. So this was different, to be called out of my name, to be put down, to have somebody put their hands on me. So what happened? My story in Panama City, suffering domestic violence, domestic abuse, was 2 years and 8 days. When I left Panama City, I came back home, but I didn't tell my story. I didn't tell anybody. I was embarrassed. I was shamed. I didn't want to bring shame on my family because my parents were still pastoring. So I didn't really share what had happened to me in Panama City. It took 20 years for me
Mm.
to talk about the date rape, to talk about the abuse I suffered. It took 20 years. So my book, Free, is about how I got free from therapy, from just doing some really inner work. And so the free stands for FREE. F, I had to learn to forgive myself. I had to forgive people that never apologized to me. And that was hard. It took years to do that.
Yes.
The R was the renewing of my mind. I,
Mm-hmm.
I had to remind myself I am not what happened to me. I am not what happened to I am who God says I am. I had to really do, the affirmations and inner work to remind
Mm-hmm.
myself who I am. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And then the other E was education. I
Mm-hmm.
educated myself on domestic abuse, different forms of abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, spiritual abuse, financial abuse, educating myself on these things so that I can do the last E, which was empower other people, not just women, empowering anyone who is either witnessed this as a child or gone through any type of sexual assault or domestic violence, empowering survivors, their families, and from that birth my nonprofit. And that is our work. Our work is empowering, educating, learning the signs of domestic violence, learning the signs of abuse, learning the signs in a child that has been molested or sexually assaulted. Just being able to provide that information so that people don't have to walk around in shame like I did for 20 years.
Okay, let me dive into that deeper. Um, Men with abuse, men who have been abused.
Yes.
How do you counsel them and everything? Because most folks know about women that have been abused. They know about children that have been abused. What
Mm-hmm.
about the men? And the reason I asked that because we had a good friend who was, like you said, manly type, ego, but his wife was abusing him at one time,
Mm-hmm.
and even had guns in the house.
Yeah.
And another good friend of mine had told him, "Hey man, you got to get about it. She had guns and she always threatened." One of the greater books I read, I can't think of who the young lady who wrote this book. She was an abuser because her mother taught her how to abuse, and she did I call it the Al Green thing, the
Mm-hmm.
grits and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
her mama told her go home and get them grits on. It was one of the books I read. I can't tell you who the author is, but she said go home and get them grits on him, and he
Yeah.
basically was in line after that because he didn't want to get burnt
Yeah.
no more. And I was
No.
like, that's crazy because you always hear about the women, you always hear about the kids, you don't
Yeah.
hear about the men's side of it.
And the
How do you
men,
address the men's side of it?
we do when we have our summits, we give space for men to share, we give space for men to talk. But in the course of me learning more about abuse and the different signs of abuse, I can pick it up in men too. I feel like it's a gift. but I can pick it up in men. And there are men that have opened up to me, whether they direct message me on Facebook or Instagram, or they'll see one of my podcasts through the years and they'll reach out to me, or friends of mine who have come to me and said, she's doing this or she's doing that. I'm like, that's abusive. Your wife should not be walking in with a knife in your face, or your wife shouldn't be in your face screaming and yelling, spitting on you, and
Mm.
calling calling you, basically calling you anything but a man, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. I know men who had women put their hands in their face, push them, spit on them, call them a punk or whatever, anything else that's derogatory, say things to get them, to get a rise out of them, to get them to hit them, to try to
Mm.
get them to come back at them. And when men share things like that to me, I tell them, I know that might be your house, but if you're not going to call the police on her and have her arrested, you need to leave.
Mm. So hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people, because that something's wrong with her and she's taking it out on you and trying to get a rise out of you. But if you hit her, you're going to lose your career. You're going to end up going to jail.
Yes.
You're going to get
Yes.
arrested. Now you're going to have a record and she's going to be laughing all the way to the bank. If you can't leave, then you need to be prepared to call and get her arrested. And many men won't do that. So the ones that don't, I advise them, you need to go to therapy, because there is something that is making you feel like you either deserve this or that it's okay to tolerate it. And it's not okay. It is
Mm.
not okay. And as
Mm.
long as she doesn't get help, she's going to continue that behavior. And so eventually somebody's either going to die or somebody's going to jail. And the
Exactly.
men that I know were able to get out of their situations. All of them are either divorced or they're living in a different state. A different
Oh,
state.
even that, because I was going to ask the question after you said that different state, because with men as the abusers, the life is never good for the woman because he's stalking her. He at a job, he in the car, he under the car, he
Mhm,
following the bus stop.
mhm.
So you telling me with the women who abuse them, you telling me he has to actually get out of the state?
I know men that have left the state to get away from these women.
Oh
Yes.
wow,
Yes.
wow.
And a lot of them, the ones that do file for divorce, is so drawn out and is so ugly that yeah, they eventually do need therapy after going through all of that. And a lot of them don't ever get remarried. And you almost can't blame them. But at the same time, it's like something has to be addressed. When you suffer that kind of trauma, whether you're a male or female, it changes you. It changes how you interact in relationships. Why would you, what if you do meet your soulmate, the woman is for you, and you, because you're so broken, you can't even love her. You don't even love yourself. And that's a
Mm.
part of the work that has to be done after you suffer that kind of trauma. You got to get back to loving yourself, which is why I had to learn to forgive myself. I was sexually assaulted at the age of 19 years old. That wasn't my fault.
Mm.
But I was so embarrassed by it, I didn't want to tell nobody. And in my book, I talk about how I've had really good men that proposed to me in college. And I said no, because I was still broken.
Right.
And in my mind, why would you want to marry me?
Right, because you're broken completely down to your toes, and you don't realize that you're really a good person, good whole person. Someone just did something to violate you.
Right, right.
Hey, Lori and Yonder, I was just curious as you were bringing that up and everything, because I remember decades ago when I was involved in a situation. How big is that stalking situation? Because I was actually at an art institution and everything
Yeah.
like that. Not the one that I currently work at, but another one that I still have associations with. But I remember the young lady that I was dating, she literally followed me and literally tried to get me to go to a different office because she was accusing me of looking at every woman that came through the door, even though I was
Yes.
doing a public service
Mm.
job and everything like that. So I have to be in the public light. But she's like, I saw you look at that person. Why don't you go back to
Yeah.
that back office and everything like that. So, like I said, that was decades ago, but I do know
Yeah,
recognize
it's
that that was
real.
a form of abuse.
It is. Stalking is real, and there are
It
laws
is.
against stalking. I mean, you can get an injunction, you can get an ex parte injunction, you can get injunctions against people from being in your space at your job, at your children's school, at your home, in your neighbor. You can get from being at near your church. You can get injunctions for that. A lot of times, people won't do it because, well, I don't want everybody in my business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and stalking is definitely real. I've had a stalker or two along the way, actually from the book world, which is crazy. you know,
Yeah.
and it pushing a whole different span. Mind you, I didn't even know the person. I met him at a book event and had some conversation, and they
Yeah.
kept on coming back past the table. And usually, my publicist is usually there with me, and he acts as my security some days. That day he couldn't be there, and I was like, I felt like a punk that day. I was like, look, I gotta get in this
Yeah.
car. This car gonna be on two wheels because I gotta get out of here. I knew this situation wasn't good. I had just met the person. I
Mhm.
was like, oh,
No.
and I was thinking, okay, good thing. This the only thing we had was this conversation. It was a conversation about life in general, and every 10 minutes she was at my table. I was just like, okay, mind you, when you, as you know, Lori, when you're doing a book signing, you're doing a book signing for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours when you're at a book
Right.
fair. You know,
Yeah.
so every 15 minutes she over there. I'm like, oh, this joker crazy. Oh, this
But
joker.
that's
And I'm like,
stalking.
oh my God. I mean,
Yeah,
it
that's a
was
form of
and
stalking right there.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
and my it was no conversation about that. We talk about it was idle
No.
chit chat. It was nothing about nothing. And she wanted to know my real name. You know, I go as Yonder, and I was just like, oh,
No.
this joke.
That's
Like I said,
it
I
can
got home.
escalate.
I
But that
got
can
home in 2 minutes
escalate.
that day. I lived an hour from the place. I got home in 2 minutes. I was
So,
on two
so,
wheels.
so
I was
so
on two
you
wheels.
you set speed
Uh,
records on that particular day, but
No.
Oh, and then I
Mm-mm.
usually, the funny thing about it back then, I had two cars that I drove. So usually I drove one car when I went out to events. And this day I actually had the car with the real tags and all the good stuff on it. I was like, she gonna try to get my information. And I was like,
Same.
man, I packed up my stuff so quick that day. You thought I was stealing my own stuff. Put that stuff in it. I got home, like I said, I lived an hour from the location. I was home in 2.5 minutes. I was on two wheels.
But the
yeah,
bad part about it with the stalking is if the person stalking you has already abused you before,
Hmm.
it escalates really quick. And so you got a person that's being stalked by their former abuser, and now you walking around on eggshells everywhere you go. You looking around everywhere you go, looking like a crazy person, living in fear because you don't know where this person gonna pop up at or where they're gonna show up at. And
Mm.
I don't know how it is where you all are, but I see on the news every day about
oh yeah,
someone's ex killing
Yes.
them or
oh
shooting
yeah.
them and the kids, and
Yeah, I'm
they've
in
been
North
following
Carolina.
them
We've had
home,
yep.
following them home. And the one a couple of months ago where the guy locked his ex-wife in the trunk of the car and rode around with her
Yes.
in it. And
Yes.
it's
But you're
real.
tackling it's
Yeah.
very real. There's no doubt about that. But you're tackling some very interesting issues even in your book, and I'll have to get a copy of the book and everything like that from Yonder or somebody else. But I was just noticing that even in this conversation, you've got a lot of, as we were talking before, you've got a lot of powerful institutions that you're tackling and everything. Because the first time that you were abused, if I heard you correctly, it was as you were talking to Yonder now during this interview. It was while you were in school,
Yeah,
and date rape is a real thing. And I think
it
a lot of
is.
universities don't realize that there's a lot of that date rape going on in their universities, whether it's a prominent
Yes.
university like Duke or Harvard, or whether it's a smaller university, or all along those lines. So, could you speak to that? Because that's some problem that
Right.
I think also isn't addressed enough. That we're just
It's
sending
not.
our kids off to schools and not realizing that they may be attacked when they're in school.
Right. And of course I went to one of the largest universities in the state of Florida, Florida State University. And when I got there, one of the things they trained us and talked to us about as freshmen coming in is partnering. Everywhere you go, you take someone with you. We had a buddy system. All the girls had a buddy system that were staying in dorms. And we kept that buddy system our freshman year because date rate was on the rise. I went to school in 92.
Yeah.
So around that time, for some reason, date rate was on the rise. So while I was on campus, it was talked about a lot. My roommate and I, in our wisdom at 17, 18, 19 years old, decided we would move off campus. And when we moved off campus, we were not ready. I grew up a church girl. I was so sheltered and green as grass. And so a lot of those topics that someone should have talked to me about other than school, because schoolwork, I had that on lock. I was an honor student. But street smart, zero.
It can't
So
be taught. It has to be lived. It's
it
sad.
had,
Sad.
I had to
Sad.
live it. So when I got off campus, that's where this happened. My roommate and I, we weren't on campus in pairs anymore. She was dating, and I decided, oh, I want to go on a date too. So instead of us going everywhere together, I don't care if it was a party, a frat party, a campus party, we always went in twos. We never left each other alone. We get in an apartment and got relaxed. And I went on a date, and she happened to not be home that day. And when I came back with my date, he forced me in the room, raped me, and left, and I never saw him again.
Oh, wow.
Didn't even live in the state. He lived in a whole nother state. And when she got home that night, I was still in the bathroom, sitting on the floor crying. I did not tell her.
Wow.
I didn't tell her. I didn't
You
tell my
didn't tell her,
parents.
you didn't tell her what you were crying for or anything?
I didn't tell her. I only told one of my friends. We had a couple of guy friends that always looked out for us. I called one of them to try to find him because at that point I wanted him to hurt him. And he was from Miami. He was ready to ride. So
Right. You always got to keep one of them around.
Yeah, and I had those buddies, but I didn't tell them the extent of my pain or my hurt or what had just happened. And I didn't tell my best friend, who was my roommate. And so she didn't find out till probably right before I got ready to write this book. Yeah. So it was just, I hid it. I later had to have surgery. I later had to deal with infertility, all types of things that resulted of this one incident
that one night, right?
Changed my life forever. And so when I deal with young women, because I started mentoring young women once I left Tallahassee, and I got back home after my divorce, I started mentoring young women. And one of the things I did once I wrote my book was go back to my home church, shared the book with girls leaving for college, because I did not want them to make that same mistake. My friends who have young girls leaving for college, I'll send them the Amazon ebook, or I'll put one in an envelope. Hey, give this to your daughter.
That's a great point of doing stuff like that, because the biggest thing about what you're talking about is it's never talked about. It happens. No one says anything about it. You say you had it for 20 years. No one tells anyone about it because they're embarrassed. Let's make that not something to be embarrassed about. We make them embarrassed, or we blame it on them. What you have on? What was you doing?
Yeah.
How did you
what
know?
did you have on?
There's a lot of that blame stuff goes on. And the other thing, Lori, that I've noticed is that sometimes people will tell you after the fact, because I also remember a situation where somebody was in that stalking mode and everything like that. And one of my best friends told me that he had to stick around till I got to the house that I was living at, because I was living in a house at that time, because I'm in an apartment now. And he was like, I want to make sure that you were in that house safely, because I saw that woman was roaming around the place and everything like that. So there is that notion of stalkers that folks can recognize even before. Sometimes we put, I don't know if you know this, but sometimes we put our blinders on. So sometimes we we see the things, but we don't want to acknowledge them, and we put blinders on.
And one thing that happens in college that I can attest to is when you have young freshmen on college campuses, and I was only 17 when I went to college, there are predators.
Yes.
You have the seniors and the juniors and the frat boys, they peeping out. The green ones like me, they peeping us out, and they telling their boys, hey, who's that? And they want to get you alone. And so the whole thing with going in twos and having a partner and having a buddy system, it works. And I tell all of them, just do it. Find your homegirl. And the people that I was partners and buddies with, we are still friends to this day. From 92 to 96, we walked that campus together, and we are still friends in 2025.
Oh, wow,
We,
that's 30. Yeah, that's 30 years that y'all have been friends and everything.
we are
So,
still friends. My best friend is my vice president of Victory Over Violence.
oh wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Before I turn it back over to Yonder and everything, you mentioned something else that I know a lot of people don't talk about. That I know Yonder was going to get to, but talk about this notion of spiritual abuse, because I think a lot of people
Mm,
also don't deal with that as much because they're afraid to call out the church, and sometimes the church got to be called
mm,
out even for being
yeah.
complacent in some
Yeah.
of the abuse because they don't want to address the abuse that is going on in their congregation.
They don't want to address it, and I feel like when I decided to tell my story, I told my parents, because my book, I had a book coach, and you all might know her, Dr. Vanetta Mosley, and she said, "Are you ready?" Because I was gonna blast what happened, and I told my mom, dad. My mom cried and about the abuse, but then I also shared with her one of the things the church has to do better. You have people sitting in your congregations going through divorces, have suffered all types of trauma, and you're not addressing it.
Mhm.
How can you be so spiritual and so holy that you can't see your members dying in plain sight?
Right.
They sit in there, and you want to talk about everything else. You want to talk about, you know, speaking and existing and touching and agreeing and all these things, when you got people that don't even sleep in the same room. Or like I was sleeping in roach motels to get away from him at night. And then I would come to church and cover up my bruises so that nobody would see them, that type stuff. So one of the things I did when I first had my very first summit, because I have summits through my nonprofit every year. When I had my very first summit, I brought a giant in this area, domestic violence abuse. She's in Atlanta. Her name is Tamiko Lowry. And I brought her in to address leadership, church leadership, community leaders, and the proper response to domestic abuse. That was the very first summit I did, and it was called Love Doesn't Hurt. And
Wow.
she gave them tools, she gave them resources, what to do when a member comes and has suffered abuse. You don't counsel her and her abuser together. That's a no-no. You don't do that. You separate them. You talk to her. You find out what she's dealing with. You find her a safe place to go. Just telling her, baby, you need to go and pray for your husband. I could have died. I
Yeah.
could have died.
Yep.
The other thing was having a safety plan for your members. Do you have a local hotel that you have a relationship with, that if you have a member that comes to you that is suffering abuse, whether it's a male or female, that you can find them a safe place to go while you address this abuser? Are they going to go get some help, or are they going to leave the house? If there's children involved, they need to leave,
Hmm.
because they risk losing their children over his abuse.
Hmm.
And then the spiritual abuse part of it, the spiritual abuse, mine started with him going and being he was apostolic. I was Pentecostal, but I was holiness. And so he would tell me on a regular basis, "You're going to hell. You're going to hell. You and your family going to hell," because I wasn't going to church with him.
Wow.
Stuff like that. Or they'll take the scripture. They'll take the
And use it
scripture
against you.
about,
Yes.
wives submitting to your husband, da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, you want me to submit to you, but I'm not going to let you keep putting your hands on me. That's not what that is.
That's not what that
Um,
is.
th-
Lori, on that same basis and everything, I think I mentioned to you, a friend of mine, don't they love to use that scripture of for better or for worse, where they want you to stay in those abusive relationships, even though they
yes.
know it's not good? Because I know that they've seen both ministers, black, white, purple, and all
Mhm.
kinds of ministers that will tell you just stay in the relationship and everything like that because they think that they can counsel their way out of what this bad
Right.
situation is and all along those lines. But I just wanted, if you can
Yes.
speak to that.
God hates divorce. That's the one he kept telling me.
Right.
God hates divorce. You married me. You married me for better, for worse. You for richer, for to death do us part. You'll forever be my wife. He told me that the day I divorced him. You'll forever be my wife. And I just shook my head and I was like, I'm so done. I asked the judge for a permanent lifetime injunction,
Right.
and I never went back. And he's still preaching.
Right.
Mm.
He never stopped. he never stopped. And it's so bad. Some churches are so bad. And I'm not trying to bash church, because I love my church, because my church has been very supportive in my endeavors and supporting my nonprofit. But there are churches that allow this, and to the point that even in my abuse, his pastors asked me to introduce him at their pastor's anniversary.
Wow.
Really?
So they let the devil take over their lives completely, because you can't be that way with being of the cloth. I mean, really. But I
No.
said all the time that the church is the world and the world is the church.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad to say it, but they really are. I mean, really, it's sometimes you don't know the difference. I mean, because
Yeah.
with nonsense like that, you're right. And that's so crazy you said that, because with being in the church, and it's like he's outside of the church, but he's still running the church. And the crazy part about it is that he's still in the cloth to this day. I mean,
Yeah.
really, that's really crazy, because so a hurt man who hurts people is preaching to people.
Mhm.
That's a sad place to be,
It's a sad place
man.
to be. And one thing that we've been trying to emphasize throughout this month of domestic violence awareness, me and the other partners, I have collaborating partners that help we get the word out together, is our communities and our church leaders have to participate. These people are supposed to be they're supposed to be able to come and get help. If they can't get to the local shelter, they ought to be able to go to somebody in their local church and say, I need help. They
Yes,
should
that
they
is
should be able to do that.
that is so true. I looked on your page, and Miss, I see you just did an event on October 17th. I'm sorry I didn't have you earlier, because I would love to have promoted that event, because I see that there are a whole lot of people who talk, but you're a doer. And I like doers,
Yeah.
because doers just they don't worry about what nobody else doing.
Mm-mm.
They keep doing. And I see
Keep
you're
doing.
doing, because this is, look, we don't ask for our missions in life. We just get them. And sometimes we fight them. And
Yeah.
sometimes we don't want to be part of it. But
No,
you got a
no,
mission, and you're keeping to it, and that's facts that folks don't even understand, because I understand a mission from God, and you be like, oh man, God, for real, me, why me? And
right
you
me.
you
Yeah.
ain't asked for this. I mean,
Mm-mm.
it's like
Mm-mm.
born into a different family. If you're born the oldest or born the youngest, whatever place you're born at, you born in that place, and that becomes your mission, and you be
Yeah,
like, oh man, for real, God, that's what we're doing. And
that's what
but
we're
because
doing.
I talk to God like you, like everybody else talks to him. I ain't like everybody talk. I talk to him just like this, like we're having this conversation. Hey
Mm-hmm.
God, so
Mm-hmm.
what we doing?
Mm-hmm.
So what we doing? That's what we're going.
That's what we're
People
doing. That's what
people
we're
so
doing.
scared of God that they don't talk to
Mm-mm.
him. I mean,
Mm-mm.
from
No,
good days to bad days to every day. Hey, so what we doing? It could be
that's
almost
it.
getting the car and say, hey God, so I guess I need to slow down, because evidently you already seen this coming. So I need to slow
No,
down, because it's
no.
something that I'm doing wrong. Ain't nothing that you're doing wrong, is God.
Mm-mm.
It's
It's
something that I'm
not.
doing wrong. Let me
Yeah,
readjust myself. Let me readjust my appearance. Let me
yeah.
readjust what I'm thinking. Let me get my heart right. Let me
Mm-hmm.
let me forgive some folks who I ain't forgave for 25 years.
Yeah,
You
that
have to
had
realize
to.
that you're
Had
the
to.
problem. In those instances that you're the problem. Like I said, you're not the problem with them, but you like, okay. And then along the way, you started beating yourself up. I'm assuming that, oh man, what did I do? And like I said, folks, the silliness of folks is they'll say, what did you have on? What did you do to him? What did you
Mm-hmm.
tell him? No,
Mm-hmm.
I ain't do nothing. I was
Mm-mm.
a woman and he was a man, and he took it. That's it.
That's it.
That
That's
was
it.
it. I didn't
That
have
was
on
it.
nothing special. Had my regular
Mm-mm.
clothes. I wear the
Mm-mm.
same perfume I wear.
Mm-mm.
My hairdo the same. I've
Mm-mm.
been doing this since I was 12. This how
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
there's nothing different. I didn't wouldn't be villain or nothing. It was just he was on his own thing to do something devilish.
That's it. That's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
because
And
people blame it on themselves, So
yeah, and
that
you
I'm
do.
glad that they have someone like you that had their back. I mean, really, along the way, as touring, doing books and stuff, and just being in society, and you meet people and you hear their stories. But very rarely do you hear someone who's actually doing something about it. I ain't saying folks aren't doing anything, but you're up front. This is who you are. This is what you're
Mhm.
doing, and you don't care what nobody else say.
Mm-mm.
This is what I'm doing. This is my mission, and guess what? I'm gonna keep on doing victory over
Mhm.
violence. I love that name. How did you come with that name?
I came up with that name. I had to reflect on my journey because it was 2017 when I started the organization. 2016, the young lady that I mentioned earlier, I went to her event in Atlanta. She had an event called Still Standing.
Mm-hmm.
And Still Standing was about survivors that have suffered either sexual assault, domestic violence, all these different things, but you still standing. And I watched those ladies walk that stage. I watched them just walk in victory.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came back home, I went to my pastor and his wife and I said, I think I want to start a nonprofit. And they know me with my big ideas. They don't care. They're going to support it. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to start a nonprofit. And I said, I don't want to just address the domestic violence I dealt with. I want to address the sexual assault too, because I don't want young girls to go through what I went through
Right.
and then blame themselves for it. But I want them to walk in victory one day at a time. And that's how I came up with Victory Over Violence of Florida Inc. And one of our mottos is helping survivors and their families get the resources they need and education they need so that they can walk in victory one day at a time. And that's what I had to do, one day at a time. Just walk in it, and realize that I was not what happened to me. And so getting free has been a process, but in the process of getting free, I've been able to help others, empower others, and walk in my victory one day at a time.
I like that. I want to go to another subject. I've been on your website playing with it. Like, oh man, this joker done everything. You got newspaper articles, the whole nine y'all. And I love that because the thing about I don't even call it bragging. It's called putting work in.
It's been a lot
And
of
people
work.
don't realize if you put work in, good things come from it. It's called old fashioned, like our parents said. We want that you gotta go work for it, and that's
That's
what you're
right.
doing. You're working for everything that no one's giving you anything.
No.
You had a quote that said, "If you are the smartest one in your circle, find a better circle." I've heard that said another way. Michael Basin always said, "If you're the smartest person in your circle, I
Mm-hmm.
can't tell you." But I've heard that said.
Mm-hmm.
Explain your version of it. If you are the smartest person one in your circle, find a better circle. Explain that.
So one of the things I learned through my pastor, who has been a mentor of mine for years, and
You
he's
can
worked.
shout him off if you like to. I mean, cause look,
Oh yeah,
you said
Ella-
this man walking the right way. Somebody need to know that. Somebody
yes,
need to look.
yeah.
Somebody need to church home, girl. Stop
Yes,
playing.
yes. He's the superintendent of Church of God in Christ, Christian Worship Center of Central Florida. We have four
Okay.
locations, one church, four locations.
Okay.
My pastor is a big dreamer. His name is John H. Christian II. He was 5 times the mayor in Leesburg, 19 years on the city commission, and I have watched him for years, walk next to him in ministry. And one of the things he's always taught me is being able to walk in a room with people that don't look like you, being able to shake hands, look people in the eye, explain who you are, say who you are, ask for what you need, speak up. You never know, the next handshake might be your next contract for $1 million. So he walked with a no fear attitude, all faith. And so I watched him do that. And I watched him go into rooms where people appeared to be smarter than him, but really he was the smartest man in the room. And he just encouraged that. And so when I heard that saying, it clicked. It clicked. Like, if I'm going to elevate where I am and what I'm doing, I need to be around people that's doing what I want to do. Just like
Yes.
if I want to, as an accountant, as a CPA, if I want to be in a CPA, I need to be in rooms with CPAs.
You
I
want
don't
to be a
need to be in
millionaire? You need
rooms.
to be in a room with millionaires. You can't.
That's
Everybody
right.
can't feed
That's
off of
right.
you.
That's right. So I found myself through my career overachieving in areas, and I was with people who were not trying to get where I was trying to go, where I was trying to
I
go.
understand.
So each
But
job that I
God gave
got.
you the vision. I always say, sir. I always say, I don't mean to interrupt you, but He gave you the vision. He ain't had no. He didn't have a meeting with nobody.
Mm-mm.
He had a meeting with you. Think
Uh-uh.
about it. We want to, and I don't mean to break. I don't
Yeah,
mean to step in.
yeah.
God wants to. When He elevates you, He elevated you. He called you. He ain't say
Mm-hmm.
you, your sister, and your cousin.
Mm-mm.
He had a
Mm-mm.
conversation with you, whether you was on your knees crying or whether you was walking down the street
Mm-mm.
jogging. He had a
Nope.
conversation with you. And
That's
our
right.
own humanists, we want to bring it right with us. He did not have this conversation with them.
No.
I'm preaching to myself too.
Yeah.
He
No.
did not have this conversation, but we be
Mm,
like, no, they don't know. I like I said,
no.
I'm preaching to myself.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
know. How you expect them
Yeah.
to know he ain't had a conversation with them?
No. But I learned over the years, if I want something I never had before, I got to do some things I never done before.
Yeah.
And I had to start doing that and applying that. And it seemed like everywhere I go, I outgrew that place. I outgrew the next place. So when I asked God, He told me I could have my CPA license. It took a lot. It took a lot to get a CPA license. It was very tough. And when I finally got it, I realized there's less than 0.5% of Black women that
Mm-hmm.
have that credential. And so I knew He put me in a different class.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to upgrade everything.
And I'm gonna tell you something. You said that you break that down again. You said that you were had to keep on going through stuff. See, the thing about it was, and I'm not getting in your business. I'm not getting your business.
uh,
He told you to go to the top. You kept on stopping.
I did.
I'm just being honest because like I said, I'm preaching to
hmm
myself.
I kept stopping.
He told you where it was, and you said, I'm gonna stop here.
I'm a side.
Okay, look. Let's just
Yeah.
go. Let's just make it car. Let's make it vehicles. He
hmm
told you to go here, and you saw the Mercedes Benz dealer. You ended up stopping at the Rolls Royce dealer. Thought you was there. He said, "I want you to have a plane."
hmm
You follow what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
That's where you supposed to
Uh-huh.
been at, but you
Uh-huh.
kept on stopping. You got a
I
Honda
did.
first. You went to a little a Lexus. You got a Mercedes. You got all versions of Mercedes. You said maybe BMW. Then you got a Rolls Royce. Say, I'm no. He said, I told you I wanted you to have a plane. He wanted
Yeah.
you to fly
Yeah.
instead of drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You follow what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I understand it because in
It
life
was
we
hard.
always when we get to the next step we think we done something. We jumping up. No, that ain't where I told you to
We
be
ain't
at.
done. Yeah. And I
We
did. I got
always
it.
go to the
Yeah,
Got
next.
it.
We
but
always go to 10 steps before we're supposed to get to the step we're
Yeah.
supposed to be at.
but
Yeah.
in that same realm and everything along those lines, because I did remember that the other thing I want you to bring up and all along those lines, because I agree that you got to go with your vision and you got to hear what the real vision is that you're supposed to do and all along those lines. But the other thing that you said that he did and everything was sometimes we want to be listening to other folks and all along those lines, and we don't want to hear the voice of the Most High and
hmm
everything like that.
hmm
I know that even in your
hmm
own conversation, there was probably him telling you to walk away, but you were thinking that he was telling you to stay in the relationship and all along those lines. So tell us a little bit about that, because I know that beforehand you were telling me that you tried to do everything possible because you thought that that's what God wanted you to do, but you found out that that's not what God wanted you to do.
No. Yeah. Well, yeah, in that particular relationship at that time, I had just graduated from college. So I was away from family, which is how abusers do. They isolate you. I was out there. And in my mind, you're not supposed to get a divorce. It's a death do you part. You're supposed to make it work. You're supposed to be able to pray. You're supposed to be able to pray together. You're supposed to be able to go to God and pray with each other, and it's supposed to work out. But I was having so much pain and having to fight for my life. And I had to really, I had a pastor at the time, and she said, Lori, I'm not going to tell you to get a divorce, but I'm going to tell you, if you want to keep living like this and fighting like this every day and being in anguish and scared, and if that's the way you want to live your life, then you stay.
Mm.
But if that's what you
And
want to do, you got to get out of
and
it.
I had to go to God for myself, and I was like, this is not love. God is love. This is not love. I knew enough to know that was not love. And I had to just come to myself and say, if I got to be by myself, I will I will be by myself before I continue to live this way. And I literally went, I remember taking a drive to Panama City Beach, sitting by the ocean, which is my place now. I love the ocean. That's why I live where I live. And I sat there and I cried and I said, God, if you get me out of this, I will not live in misery, in pain, without peace. I will not be miserable. I will not. And I will not do that to myself. And I was able to get out. I was able to get out. I was able, with help from friends from Tyndall Air Force Base, they were able to get me in a safe place where he could not get to me on Tyndall Air Force Base. I filed my own divorce.
Mhm.
I filed my own injunctions, and that was a part of God building me then, because I helped survivors do that after I left. I was able to help survivors file injunctions, file divorces. I don't have so many divorces, I don't done so many petitions, but it was a part of whatever he was doing. He had a vision for me. I didn't know what it was, but he had a vision for me. And for my vision, he has made provision. He has connected me. I have collaborations with people I would have never met.
Mhm.
And those collaborations have helped me we're international. We go to Bahamas. One of my partners, she has us agreement in the Turks. We were scheduled to go to Jamaica on November 23rd. Don't know how that's going to work,
Yeah,
but
with the weather that they got going, because they got some bad
yeah.
weather going on.
So, but we've been able to teach those concepts of loving smart and recognizing toxic relationships internationally. And
Oh, wow.
that's nobody but God.
That's definitely God and everything. I still got to get you to tell that story though, because you had me cracking up when you were saying
Which
that you were
one?
when you said you were trying to put oil on his shoes and everything like that. So tell us about that.
Yes. Yes. So he left from work one day, and I could tell that he had been smoking whatever he had been smoking. Now, mind you, this is a minister, this is a preacher. I've never seen him with cigarettes. So I didn't know, like, what is that smell in the house? I said, I'm going to get these demons out of here today. So growing up Pentecostal holiness, I knew how to get the blessed oil out. Always keep blessed oil in the house. I got that blessed oil out. I went in the closet. I poured the blessed oil in his shoes. I put it on the doorknobs of the closet. I put it on the doorknobs of the house. I put it across the door. House was greasy. The apartment was greasy. It was greasy. But that demon, I saw his demeanor change, and I thank God for the insight he has given me, where I can tell when I'm dealing with someone that's either demonic, or when I'm dealing with a woman or a child that's been abused. I can pick up their spirit, and the Lord is able to send them to me where I can speak with them. But this particular day, he came in the house, and I could see it in his eyes. Evil. I could see the evil in his eyes. When I say he came at me that day, and I just stood flat foot and I looked in his face, all I knew, I said, the blood of Jesus. You will not touch me. You will not hit me. You will not harm me. The blood of Jesus. He looked at me. You crazy. You crazy. And he walked out the house. He didn't hit me that day.
I know that's right.
Hey, a
He didn't hit
friend.
me that day.
Yeah, sometimes there's some things you don't want to mess with.
He didn't hit me that day. And that's the thing. He was crazy enough to recognize, but he was also so evil to the point that, at one instance, he tried to smother me and suffocate me on the couch.
Oh, well.
He took a
Okay, I have a
pillow.
question for you, Lori.
Yeah.
So we don't know who this man is, and I
Mm-mm.
don't want to know who he is.
I didn't even name him in the book.
No, okay,
On purpose.
that's why I was
On
going.
purpose.
This
On
you just
purpose.
named the demon. Okay, I got you. Cause I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, girl, cause look. I'm like, okay, let me go through this page again. Okay, did I miss something? Well, look,
Mm-mm.
okay, but you know
Mm-mm.
what? That puts me to this place right here now, with what you're going through. Okay, and what you've been through. What advice would you give
Yes.
someone's listening right now, or someone's going to listen to this as we put this
Yes.
out to the world?
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give a man, and what advice would you give a woman
Yeah.
right now?
Okay. For a woman, and my pastor does this to me all the time, he'll have young women call me, or women that are married to ministers call me. I tell them, your peace is precious, and your priority should be your peace. And in order for you to function, whether you have children or not, you got to be able to take care of yourself, and you got to be able to love yourself. When you allow someone to beat you down verbally, mentally, physically, there's no way you can be or walk in your purpose. God wants us to walk in our purpose. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is to get free. And a lot of women don't know how to get free. They don't know how to get out of their situations. And I tell any of them, if someone is putting their hands on you, I don't care if they apologize. I don't care if they buy you gifts. I don't care if they say, I'll never do that again. I don't want to lose you. Yes, if they're not getting therapy, they're not getting help, they're going to do it again. They're going to do it again. You got to make up in your mind that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You got to make up in your mind that you're tired of being treated less than. You got to make up in your mind that you know your worth and you are worth more than someone's punching bag. You got to love yourself enough to pull yourself out of it. And that may mean sleeping on somebody's couch, going to a shelter. There are shelters, there are resources that can help you get back on your feet that cost you nothing. There are domestic violence programs that will help you get in transitional homes. These transitional homes will work with you so you can get a better job, so that you can be a first-time home buyer. I have seen it happen. It can happen, but you've got to get sick and tired of the situation. You've got to want your peace back. Peace is priceless. There are programs that can help you. Same thing with men. There are certain programs that have been created for men. There are shelters for men. There are programs that will help a man with children, help him get out of his situation so that he doesn't lose his kids to foster care because of this abusive situation. So there are programs out there if you can get past the part of speaking up, speaking out, and forget being embarrassed. I got to the point where I was like, whatever. I'm finna put all my business in this book. So I ain't no shame. Everything's at this point, I can talk about anything. It's all in the book. So there's no shame. And I feel so free in doing that. So people can ask me anything. Yeah, that happened. It sure did. And I sent him to jail and he got out. And then I sent him to jail again and he got out again. And then after that, I was like, I'm done. Yeah.
And one of my questions was, tell us about your journey. I got your journey. I got your journey. Let me see. I always put out some little notes and everything. But I'm just excited about what you're doing. Sad that it has to happen, but it has to happen.
Yeah.
Someone has to be in place to do what has to get done. And that's one of the biggest things I think in life, that so many other things going on, from this government shutdown to all the stuff with the SNAP benefits and everything.
Yeah.
There's so much heartache and pain that's going on right now,
Yes.
that this becomes even more heartache and pain because your money ain't right, and your benefits ain't right, and they better go up on the health insurance and just a whole lot of nonsense.
Yeah.
I am so glad to have someone like you standing in the gap, basically, because it was a gap.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Saying, come this way. I got you. I got you. Man, woman, children.
Yeah.
I got you. There are very few folks that actually stand in the gap. I know some great folks that stand in the gap, but now I know a new person that stands in the gap also. And that would be you, Lori. My heart goes out to what you're doing. Anything I can help along the way, from publicity to one of the things that I am going to do is, there's some good contacts I have. I'll forward you information. There's an event that I go to every year called the Fresh Book Festival. It's in Daytona. That's the event that I'm going to hook you up with the information to the young lady who puts the event on, because you probably need to talk there. I mean, really, what you're talking about, and just to be there. It's a bunch of authors. It's not even about selling. It's a event about networking. I mean, let me see. I have 2 books out now from that event from 2 years ago. Got a 3rd book coming out now. Collaboration. Our book is about Black men's mental health.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm in 3 collaborations of that with I think it's 22 authors in each book, and that's along the way with what you're talking about now. Because if along the way, after you've been beat on both sides, woman or man, your mental health is just shaking, and you're shaking. You're a frail person, and it has nothing to do with you. It's because of what you've been through.
Yeah. You need that mental health has to be a part of it. When we do our summits every year, we have a panel, and we always have males, we have females, we have therapists, we have counselors, attorneys, whoever we can get on a panel to address whatever issues come up in the audience. during that panel, and we always include mental health because we want to come from a trauma informed perspective. It's
Yes,
so important to have a trauma informed perspective and a trauma informed response, and not be so quick to dismiss stuff. You need to find out what happened to this person. Why this man acting like this now?
that
It's a
is so
reason.
that is so true. Like I said, I have some good contacts. I'll be forwarding
Yeah.
information and talking to you regularly because this is
Yeah.
something. Anything that you're involved in, let me know if I'm available. I'll come support. Send some folks to you.
Yeah.
I'll forward it
Yes.
on social media and everything because this is a untapped subject for real.
Hmm.
I mean, you have organization. Of course, there are other organizations and
Hmm.
everything, but you're actually in the weeds of this thing
Yeah. And
and being in the
I have some
weeds of this
great
thing
partners.
and being partnered, like you said, and being partners with folks. I mean, it's just a whole different realm of what you're doing, and it's appreciated. I mean, really, I'm saying from a man's aspect, but I have daughters also, so
Hmm.
I really and I plan to have get your books and give it to my daughters also. Because
Okay.
this is something that needs to be talked about. I have they're young ladies now. They're 27 and 24 now, but they need to know that this is available
Yeah.
and what not to do along the way because no one wants to talk to their parents. No one is going to talk to their parents.
No, no. And when I do the workshops, because I do workshops as well, because I do speak. So some of the workshops I do with smaller groups, we go through those steps of getting
Hmm.
free. And a lot of the I've had women 80 something years old just break down and cry because they've been holding stuff and never got free of something from like 50 years ago. It's just it's heartbreaking to see someone at that age still carrying something that they never told anybody.
But you carry because you can't lose. You don't have a way. One of the things you
Mhm.
said you did, you wrote a book about it. That's what every therapist say. Start writing it down. Start
Yes,
put yeah, because
yes,
that'll
yes,
that'll get it'll get you crying too. It'll
yeah,
get
yeah.
but for forgiveness comes via the pen. People don't realize that.
Hmm.
It
Yeah,
comes via the pen. Whether you ever put that book out, whether you ever
yeah.
put that journal out, you have to get it out of you.
Yes, yes. And journaling, that's how this got written.
Well,
Journaling.
Lori, please plug your website again so we can
Okay.
have it and have all the information. Because, like I said, that's why I try to plug it before again. Because we
Yes,
get so, let's say, conversation friends, we get so caught up in
yes,
having these
yes,
conversations that we forget to help the people that we. So, please plug your
yes,
websites
yes.
again.
So the book free is actually under my previous married name. The book free is on Amazon and the ebook is on Amazon. So they'll have to look for Lori Simmons because I have not redone the cover. I'm going to do the cover with a workbook,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be under my current name, which is my daddy's name, my maiden name,
Right,
Lori
right. Got you. I
Brinson.
got you.
So that will be coming out soon, but it's on Amazon. But my nonprofit, we have a summit coming up in February. February 7th. It's going to be right here in Ruskin at the Sunset Grill
Okay.
Conference Center. February 7th. It's going to be from 9 to 2, and that is going to be on the website. Actually, it's already on the website as an event. You can book RSVP. VictoryOverViolenceFL.com. Or the Facebook Victory Over Violence, Victory Over Violence of Florida on Facebook. The event is on there as well. The summit is an annual event.
And
We have.
tag me on social media because I'll
I
forward
will.
out. Actually, this will be out tomorrow morning because
Okay.
usually every morning I have a conversation with the world on Facebook, and I plug you this morning. Actually, I'm going to plug what we did today, and I'll
Okay.
have you show up and everything. So if you plug me, and actually you become part of what I'm going to speak on tomorrow. Actually,
All right.
I always leave somebody with a good word,
Good.
and you
Good.
left me with words.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you're gonna be my plug tomorrow morning. I do it 6 o'clock in the morning every morning as I'm walking. So I don't have to think of nothing now because you said it all, and I appreciate
Yes.
this. We have to go, Lori, but please leave my audience with something special because I
Yes.
always say conversations with friends are nothing. I
Mhm.
mean, it's no preconceived notions, it's no deep down thoughts. It's just when you talking to your friend, you talk about everything. Please leave
Yes.
my friend. Please leave my friends with something.
Yes. So one of the things that was shared with me through my journey when I was going through taking my CPA exams and just kind of reflecting on where my journey had gone from the abuse to becoming victorious, one of my friends shared with me Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, and it's not to harm you, but to profit you and to give you an expected end. And that is where I am, but it took a lot to get here. But God gave me a vision, and with that, He made provision. And He brought me people in my life, in my tribe, as I call them, to help me get there. You can't do this alone. You need good people in your life that will support you, that will tell you when you're wrong, that will encourage you on your journey and be there for you. But keep the faith, don't stop. And I am a true believer. If you want something you never had before, you got to do some things you never done before. And they may not be easy, but it will be worth it.
And thank you again, Lori Ann Brinson, CPA, author, and CEO of nonprofit Victory Over Violence. Thank you again. I plan to have you again. You said your event is in February, so let's look for a January date for you so
Okay.
you can plug it. Any other dates, if you need to come on, something special going on in your life, something special going on, eventually special going, let me know. Let me
Okay.
plug you in somewhere so we can get your information out. And you have my information. Please
Yes.
feel free to tag me and say, "Hey, Yonder, can you put this on your page?" I'll
Mhm.
forward it. I become your advertiser.
All right. All
Okay.
right.
Thank you so much for
Thank
having me.
you. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Okay. Bye bye.